On my wedding day, Mom tried to steal my Mercedes for my sister, but my groom exposed her in front of 180 guests, and I cut ties with them for good. At my wedding, my mother smiled and said, "We're passing the car his parents gave you over to your sister." My sister laughed and added, "Relax, it's just a car." My fiancé simply looked at her and said nothing, but his quiet told volumes. The rehearsal dinner went wonderfully. Everything is prepared for tomorrow. I should have been flying on air, but something about my mother's look bothered me as I drove back to the hotel that night. She had taken my sister Megan away 4 times throughout supper, speaking furiously and casting looks in my direction. Emma Caldwell is soon to become Emma Whitaker in less than 24 hours. I am 28 years old, and tomorrow was meant to be the best day of my life. My fiancé James comes from old money, the sort that does not flaunt its wealth but quietly controls half of our city's commercial real estate. 4 months ago, his parents gave us a lovely wedding present. A fully outfitted Mercedes GLE 500 SUV bearing my name on the title. It was sitting in their garage since James and I were still living in different apartments until after the wedding. My family is not like yours. We are not impoverished, but we have always gotten by. Mom worked as an office manager, earning around $55,000 per year. Her father died of cancer when I was 18. Megan dropped out of college twice before quitting up completely. She's now 30, 2 years older than me, and still lives at home for free while working part-time at a boutique. Growing up, Megan was always my favorite. She had the larger bedroom, later curfew, and the pricey prom dress, whereas I wore anything from Target. Mom excused it by stating Megan needed more assistance since she lacked confidence. Translation: I was self-sufficient and had high marks, so I didn't need as much care. A brew where the trend persisted until maturity. When I enrolled in law school, my mother hosted a little supper. When Megan finished a 5-week online social media marketing course, her mother organized a celebration with food using her small funds. The wedding morning arrived with beautiful weather. My bridesmaids assisted me into my handmade Vera Wang gown, which James had surprised me with. His family insisted on paying for the wedding, which clearly irritated my mother. She'd sought control over the planning, but James's mother, Margaret, graciously thwarted every attempt, keeping things polished and beautiful rather than the flashy display Mom had imagined. Mom arrived into the bridal suite as I was touching up my lipstick. She was wearing a dress that was way too close to white for mother of the bride protocol, but I had already fought and lost that battle. "Sweetheart, you look beautiful," she remarked, but her smile was forced. "I wanted to talk to you about something before the ceremony." A bury. My stomach fell. Nothing good ever come of such words. "Can it wait until after?" I inquired, fastening my veil. "It really can't." "It's about the Mercedes, Aubrey." My hands froze. "What about it?" She reclined on the velvet sofa, straightening her clothes. "Well, Bethy's car finally died last week. The transmission went and it would cost more to fix than the car is worth. She needs reliable transportation for job interviews." "Rook," I said softly. "What does that have to do with my wedding gift?" Mom's chuckle was light-hearted and rehearsed. "Oh honey, you're being dramatic. James's family has plenty of money, they can get you another car anytime. But Megan really needs one now, and that Mercedes is just sitting there unused." It took my breath away. "Mom, that car was a wedding gift to me and James from his parents with my name on the title." "Exactly. Your name, not James's, which means you can do whatever you want with it. And the loving, generous thing would be to help your sister." She rose up and adjusted her hair in the mirror. "We're passing the car over to Megan. I already discussed it with her and she's thrilled. She's even planning to drive it to job interviews next week." "You discussed giving away my car without talking to me first. What's that?" "Emma, don't be selfish. You're marrying into wealth. You'll have everything you could ever want. Your sister is struggling. This is what family does." She walked toward the front door. "Besides, everything is already determined. Megan will pick it up from the Whitaker estate tomorrow." Margaret was surprisingly understanding when I called her yesterday. My eyesight turned crimson. "You called James's mother and told her you're giving away the car she gave me?" Response: I explained the family situation. She said she'd talk to James about it. Mom checked her watch. "We should get you lined up. The ceremony starts in 30 minutes. She departed before I could answer. I stood there in my lovely clothing, suddenly feeling like a costume. My idyllic day is unraveling. Megan strolled in wearing a bridesmaid dress that she had felt was too basic for her tastes. "Hey bride," she smiled, totally ignorant of what had already occurred. "I'm so excited about the Mercedes." Mom said I could have it since you're going to be loaded now anyway. Hey Brookie Megan, that's not he. Oh come on Emma. Don't be like this. She rolled her eyes. It's just a car. A breaker. I actually need it. Something inside of me cracked. However, years of being the responsible one kept my voice even. Megan, that car was a gift from James's parents to me for our wedding. Aber. She shrugged and examined her manicure. Yeah, but like you don't even need it. James probably makes more in a month than I'll see in a year. Why are you being so stingy? O'Brien said. Stingy. It's my property. Relax, it's just a car. She stated it nonchalantly, as if borrowing a sweater. Besides, Mom already arranged everything. I'm picking it up tomorrow at 10 o'clock. A guffaw. Rachel, my companion of honor, had strolled in during this encounter. In a matter of seconds, her countenance changed from perplexed to outraged. I'm sorry. What? Emily asked. Emma's being dramatic about me getting the Mercedes that James's parents gave her like she won't have 50 more cars in her lifetime. Ira C. Rachel glanced at me and said, please tell me this is a joke. My phone buzzed before I could answer. A text from James. My mom just told me what happened. Don't worry, stay calm, I'm handling it. Hey Burr. The service began at 4 p.m. in the Whitaker Estates garden. 180 visitors sat on white seats placed in precise rows. James stood at the altar, looking like he'd walked out of a magazine, with his best man and groomsmen encircling him. I walked down the aisle on my uncle's arm because my father was not present, trying to focus on James's face rather than my mother's happy smile in the front row. Abra, we exchanged vows. When James pledged to love and adore me, he spoke steadily and confidently. When it was my time, I had to blink back angry tears that had nothing to do with happiness. The officiant declared us husband and wife. James kissed me, and everyone clapped. The event took place in a huge tent decked with thousands of white flowers and sparkling lamps. Dinner was served, speeches were given, and I went through the motions, my mind racing. James kept clutching my hand beneath the table, but he appeared strangely calm considering what had transpired. After the first dance we went around meeting folks. Mom cornered me at the dessert table with Megan trailing after her. Emma darling, you look absolutely radiant, Mom said, caressing my cheek. I'm so proud of you. Are we really doing this right now? I said quietly. Abrahe doing what? I'm congratulating my daughter on her wedding day. She looked around at the lavish decorations, designer gowns, and pricey champagne flowing freely. You certainly landed well. The Whitakers really know how to throw an event. Megan giggled faintly, drunk from the open bar. Seriously Emma, this must have cost like $500,000, and you were worried about one little car. Several surrounding visitors turned to stare. James appeared by my side, his hand touching the small of my back. Mrs. Caldwell, Megan. Are you enjoying the reception? His voice was sweet, but I'd learned to detect the edge in it. Oh, it's lovely, James, Mom said. Your family has been so generous, which is actually what I wanted to mention to Emma earlier about the Mercedes. Brooke. James made a smooth interruption. Yes, my mother told me about your phone call. Abra, Mom's smile faded significantly. Oh, well, I hope she explained the situation with Megan's car. It really is urgent that she has reliable transportation. She did explain, James stated. She explained that you called asking us to sign over Emma's wedding gift to Megan because it would be the family-oriented thing to do. Ira, Megan said, clearly buoyed by champagne. It's not like Emma needs it. You guys are rich, you could buy 10 Mercedes and not even notice. Ebrigri. The adjacent talks had completely halted. People were openly gazing. James' parents, his sister Sophia, and her husband had all moved closer together. I could see James's jaw tense. The only bodily indication that he was upset. He and I had spent months arranging this wedding together, making sure every detail was flawless. His parents wrote checks without blinking, never making me feel as if I didn't deserve the fairy tale day. And here was my mother, at the reception they'd paid for, attempting to disperse their presents as if she were Robin Hood. Actually, Megan, let me ask you something, James continued, keeping his tone casual. When was the last time you paid for your own phone bill? Ira, Megan blinked, taken off guard. What does that have to do with Ebby? Just answer the question. Abro, Mom pays it. It's a family plan, right? And your car insurance before your car died. Ebrook, which is also on Mom's agenda. Megan's confidence was waning. A bricker rents. I live at home. Burr credit card bills. A brag. Megan's face reddened. Mom helps me sometimes when I'm short, so, let me get this straight, James said, his voice charming yet harsh enough to break glass. You're 30 years old. You work part-time, approximately 15 hours a week. Based on what you told me at the rehearsal dinner, your mother pays for your housing, phone, insurance, and regularly covers your credit card debt. And you think Emma, who put herself through college working 2 jobs, who graduated law school with honors while waitressing on weekends, who has never asked her mother for a dime since she turned 18, you think she's the selfish one? The stillness was terrible. I could hear someone's champagne glass clink on their plate from 3 tables away. Mom's face had changed from flushed to pale. Abra, James answered. Daniel, you're making this into something it's not, my mother responded. No, Mrs. Caldwell, I'm making it exactly what it is. Let me tell you what Emma hasn't told you because she's too kind to throw it in your face. James's hand remained on my back, solid and reassuring. When Emma was applying to law schools, she got accepted to Harvard. Full ride. Do you know why she turned it down? A Brooke. I felt my breath catch. I hadn't told James this explicitly, but he must have pieced it together from previous chats. She declined because you contacted her weeping and said you couldn't manage Megan's depression if Emma relocated to Boston. You mentioned Megan's yearning to be close to her big sister. Emma went to the state school instead, commuting from an apartment she couldn't afford rather than staying on campus and returning home on weekends to assist Megan. Mom opened her mouth, but no sound came out. And you know what Megan was doing during those weekends Emma was sacrificing her dream school for? James gazed at my sister. Dating that guy Tom, going to parties, living her life. She wasn't depressed. She was fine. But you knew if you played the mental health card, Emma would fold because that's what Emma does. She puts everyone else first. How dare you? Mom finally spoke up. You have no idea what our family has been through. I know exactly what your family has been through because I've spent 2 years watching you do it, James added, his voice rising significantly. I've watched you guilt Emma into missing our 6-month anniversary dinner because Megan had a bad Tinder date. I've seen you expect Megan to pay Bethany's half of your birthday dinner bill because she's suffering right now. I've seen you beg Megan to postpone our engagement photographs by a week because they were too near to Bethany's birthday and you didn't want her to feel overshadowed. Every example struck like a physical blow. These were private moments, and I had made minor sacrifices to maintain the peace. Hearing them read aloud makes the pattern difficult to miss. James stated weakly. Family makes sacrifices. No, Mrs. Caldwell. Megan makes sacrifices, whereas Bethany makes demands. There's a distinction. James looked around at the audience. I apologize to our guests for this scene, but I think it's important that everyone understand what's happening here. This isn't about a car. This is about a lifetime of my wife being treated like her accomplishments, her feelings, and her property are all community resources to be distributed as her mother sees fit. Margaret Whitaker went forward, her elegant gown gleaming under the tent lights. She had been silent until now, but her demeanor was cold. Mrs. Caldwell, when you called me yesterday, you told me that Megan had always been selfish with material things and that this was an opportunity for her to learn to share with family. You asked me as her new mother to help teach her generosity. Aubrey, the audience gasped. Several individuals glanced at Mom with open disdain. What you didn't know, Margaret continued, is that I had lunch with Megan 2 weeks ago, and she told me about a scholarship fund she's been quietly contributing to at her old high school for the past year. $1,200 per month, every month, for students from low-income families who want to pursue law degrees. She deliberately sought anonymity, since she did not want to be recognized. Aubrey. I felt tears well up in my eyes again. I had forgotten I had mentioned it to Margaret on one of our shopping outings. So, when you phoned to talk about teaching my daughter-in-law generosity, I have to tell you, Mrs. Caldwell, it felt really rich coming from someone who trained one daughter to give and another to receive. Margaret's voice may have stopped hellfire. That Mercedes was meant to be a symbol of welcome to Megan, a way of telling her that she's part of our family now. You attempted to manipulate me into betraying that welcome. That's not something I take lightly. James's father, Robert, had been standing slightly behind his wife. He talked infrequently, but when he did, everyone listened. I built my company from nothing. I understand what it means to work hard and earn what you have. What I don't understand is watching your child succeed and feeling entitled to the fruits of that success. Megan didn't earn that car, Bethany said, tears running down her cheeks now. You people just gave it to her because James married her. She didn't do anything for it. You're absolutely right, Robert answered quietly. She didn't earn it. It was a gift. Do you know why we give gifts, young lady? Because we care about someone and want them to have something nice. Not because we expect that gift to be redistributed to their relatives. If we'd wanted to give you a car, we would have given you a car. Aber, but that's not fair, Bethany remarked. Life isn't fair, Emily said, her patience visibly drained. I'm James's sister, and I got a car when I got married too. You know what my sister-in-law didn't do? Show up at my wedding and demand I give it to her unemployed brother? Because that would be insane. This is insane. The bridesmaids created a protective semicircle around me. My cousin Lily, with whom I hadn't spoken in years, approached my mother and addressed her. I need to say something. When I got engaged last year, you contacted my mother and said it was a pity I was getting married before Bethany because it would make Bethany feel awful about her single status. You advised that I postpone my own wedding for 6 months so that Bethany would not be uncomfortable. Aubrey. Mom's eyes widened. Lily, that was a private conversation. Number. It was a ludicrous request that demonstrated exactly how you work, and my mother, your own sister, said no. She warned you that you created a monster in Bethany by never allowing her to feel disappointment or repercussions, and that you were ruining your relationship with Megan by treating her as a support system rather than a daughter. Lily's voice cracked. We've all watched this for years. We've all stayed quiet because we didn't want to cause family drama. But you know what? You caused this. You did this. Aber relatives were nodding. My Aunt Rachel, Mom's other sister, appeared to want to talk, but remained mute. The weight of public opinion was crushing my mother. And someplace deep inside, I felt a twinge of sadness, but largely I felt vindicated. James's expression remained completely cheerful. You're right, Bethany. We could buy 10 Mercedes, but here's the thing. We shouldn't have to. Ire, Mom's face reddened. James, I don't think you understand how difficult things have been for Bethany. I understand perfectly, he said, his voice echoing around the quiet tent. I understand you spent 30 years prioritizing Bethany's demands over Megan's needs. I realize that you contacted my mother and attempted to persuade her to give up our property by making her feel guilty about our family's financial success. But I don't see why you believed it would work. Abra. Bethany's face became pale. It's just a car, she said faintly. James gave her his whole attention. Just a car, right? So, if it's just a car, it shouldn't matter that you don't get it. That's not what I meant. No, I know exactly what you meant. His voice was still velvety. You meant that Megan's gifts, Megan's accomplishments, Megan's happiness, all matter less than yours. Because your mother taught you that you're entitled to everything your sister has. Ibrahim's mother stepped forward. Now, you wait just a minute. No, Mrs. Caldwell. You wait. James's father had joined us now and his presence drew quick notice. Let me make something very clear, that Mercedes was a gift to my daughter-in-law, not to her family, not to be redistributed as you see fit to her. With all due respect, Mr. Whitaker, Mom said. Family helps family. With all due respect, Margaret Whitaker interrupted, her tone icy. You don't get to decide how my son and his wife manage their assets. You certainly don't get to volunteer their property for redistribution. Abaruri. The tent was completely quiet now. Even the band had stopped playing. Abby and Bethany's eyes welled up. I can't believe you're all being so mean about this. I just needed help. Aber, you need help. James's sister Emily spoke forward. From what I heard at dinner last night, you work 15 hours a week and spend your paychecks on designer purses. That's not needing help. That's poor planning. Ira, how dare you? Mom said, her voice rising. You people think your money makes you better than everyone. Ibrahu, this isn't about the money, I eventually said, my voice quivering. This is about respect. You did not ask me about the automobile. You demanded it. You phoned my in-laws behind my back, attempting to influence them. You told Megan she could pick it up tomorrow as if it had already been chosen on my wedding day, which you did. Emma, honey, I was trying to help your sister. Abby. No, Mom. You were doing what you've always done, prioritizing Megan and expecting me to fall in line because I'm the responsible one who doesn't need attention. Years of suppressed fury were gushing forth. When I graduated from high school with honors, you skipped the ceremony because Megan had a horrible date. When I got into law school, You encouraged me not to make a big deal about it because Megan was insecure about her own decisions. And now, on my wedding day, you're attempting to take away a present from my husband's family because Megan requires another bailout. Tears were running down my cheeks, spoiling my makeup. But I didn't care any longer. I spent my whole youth being second to Megan, keeping myself smaller so she could feel greater. But I am done, Mom. I'm done apologizing for success. I'm done feeling bad about having beautiful stuff. And I am absolutely done allowing you to disperse my things as if you had any right to it. Megan was also weeping now. Mascara ran down her cheeks. I didn't know you felt that way. Of course you didn't, since you've never had to consider other people's sentiments. Mom made sure of it. Mom gazed around at the assembled audience. Her face was a mask of shame and wrath. I cannot believe you're doing this in front of all these people. Your own mother. My mother attempted to steal my wedding gift. I cut her off. Yeah, I think these people should know exactly who you are. Daniel's fingers curled around my waist. The car stays in Emma's name. The discussion is over. If you'd like to continue enjoying the reception, you're welcome to. But if you're going to keep pushing this issue, I'll have security escort you out. Ibra. Mom's mouth expanded and closed like a fish. She plainly expected Daniel to be more conciliatory in order to maintain peace. She had made a serious error in her calculations. You'd kick your own mother-in-law out of the wedding reception? She said, shocked. Kibra, I would throw out anyone who is attempting to ruin my wife's wedding day, Daniel stated, his voice firm. Mom grasped Megan's arm. Come on, we don't have to stay here and be insulted. They turned to go, but Daniel's voice interrupted them. Oh, and Mrs. Caldwell, one more thing. Mom turned back, hoping that he would back down. If you ever try to manipulate my family or shame my wife into giving you anything else, I will make sure that everyone in your social circle knows precisely what you did today. My family has contacts in every major company and social group in this city. Good luck keeping your membership at the country club once they see how you treat your daughter. It was a premeditated threat, delivered with surgical precision. Mom's face became white as she realized the ramifications. With a few phone calls from the Whitakers, she may lose the social contacts she had worked so hard to develop in order to retain her image of comfortable middle-class respectability. She walked away without saying anything else, pulling Megan along with her. After a brew, the tent remained silent for another minute. Then Daniel's grandma started to clap gently. Others joined in the ovation, which grew until the whole gathering was cheering. Several others approached me and hugged me, telling me about their own family members that pushed their boundaries. I excused myself to the restroom, seeking a moment alone. Jessica followed me. Are you okay? She said as I grabbed the sink, attempting to steady my quivering hands. A brewer. I just publicly humiliated my mother at my own wedding. No, you just publicly defended yourself at your own wedding. There's a difference. Jessica gave me tissues. I've known you since freshman year of college. I've watched your mom treat you like you're less important than Megan for a decade. You needed to do this. Why does it feel so terrible then? Because you're a good person who was raised to believe that standing up for yourself is selfish. Jessica applied my makeup with soft hands. But you're not selfish, Emma. You're finally putting yourself first, and that scares you because it's new. We returned to find Daniel conversing with his parents and several other visitors. When he spotted me, he excused himself and came right over. My grandmother wants to make a toast, he replied gently. Are you up for it, T-Brook? I nodded, despite feeling fatigued. We approached the head table, where his grandmother, Margaret Whitaker, was holding a champagne glass. She was 93 years old, sharp as a tack, and known for expressing her opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, her voice unusually powerful for her age. I've been to a lot of weddings in my life. Society weddings, quiet ceremonies, shotgun weddings, and everything in between. But this is the first wedding where I've watched a young woman stand up for herself so beautifully. The audience muttered their appreciation. A brewer. When I married my husband 70 years ago, women were expected to be quiet and accommodating. We were taught that family came first, even when family treated us poorly. I spent 30 years of my marriage catering to my mother-in-law's every whim before I finally learned to say no. She stared at me straight. Emma, you learned that lesson much younger than I did. You stood here today and drew boundaries that you should have been allowed to draw years ago. I'm proud to call you my granddaughter. The applause was tremendous. I was sobbing again, but this time out of thankfulness, not anger or hurt. Margaret approached and hugged me, smelling of costly perfume and peppermint. Your mother will either learn from this or not, she murmured into my ear. Either way, you'll be fine. You got steel in your spine, girl. Use it. A brother. The rest of the reception continued with fresh vigor. People approached me often, and I heard variations on the same tale. Difficult moms, entitled siblings, and family members who saw their achievement as their legacy. One woman told me about her sister, who attempted to move into her home after she married since there was additional space. Another described how her brother expected her to pay his mortgage since she earned more money than him. James's college friend Tom approached him, and I overheard him say, "Man, I've never seen you go to war like that. It was like watching a different person." "She brr," James said immediately. "That's my wife. Nobody treats her like that, not even her own family." Around 10 p.m., when the event was winding down, my Uncle Peter approached me. He was my father's brother and had always been kind but distant. "Emma, I need to apologize to you," he continued with red-rimmed eyes. "Your dad would have been so proud of what you did today and ashamed of me for not doing it sooner." "Uncle Peter, let me say this. After your father died, I should have stepped up more. I should have observed how Claire treated you and Megan differently and said anything. Instead, I kept my lips shut because I didn't want to make trouble." He wiped his eyes. "Your dad loved you so much, Emma. He used to worry about what would happen to you after he was gone because he knew your mom favored Megan. I promised him I'd look out for you, and I failed." A brew. The word of my father shattered something in my chest. He has been gone for 8 years, yet I still miss him every day. He'd been the one to promote my dreams, tell me I was clever enough for law school, and believe in me wholeheartedly. "Dad knew," I muttered. "Of course he knew. He and your mother were constantly fighting about it. He wanted her to treat you both equally, but she constantly found a reason for why Megan required more care." Peter's voice was bitter. "After he died, it got worse. I should have intervened. I'm sorry." A brew. "You're here now," I murmured, hugging him. "That matters. Brian Aniel is a good dude. Your father would have liked him, especially after tonight." Peter mustered a faint smile. "Having a husband who will go to war for you is a terrible wedding gift." As midnight neared, James and I prepared to depart for our hotel before our early trip to Bora Bora. I threw my bouquet, which Sophia caught and promptly passed to her teenage daughter, much to everyone's amazement. James flung the garter, which his closest buddy caught, and quickly attempted to give it to anyone else. We walked through a sparkler tunnel to our waiting car, a classic Rolls-Royce that would transport us to the hotel. As we drove away, I looked back at the illuminated tent and the people who were still partying, and I felt something change in my chest. This was my new beginning. Not only the marriage, but the border I'd set and ultimately guarded. A buru. No regrets? James inquired, hooking his fingers around mine. "None," I responded sincerely. "Except that I didn't shut them down sooner. I should have said something the first time your mother used that guilt trip bullshit. You did it today. That is what matters." We spent our wedding night at a 5-star downtown hotel, and James carried me across the threshold of the room. We were both laughing, the weight of the evening having lifted, and we ordered room service at 2 a.m., eating chocolate cake in bed and chatting about everything that had transpired. "Your cousin Lily was amazing," remarked James. "I had no idea your mom had tried to make her postpone her wedding." I didn't either. That, however, is really typical of Mom. I nibbled at the cake. "Do you think I went too far, Emma? She tried to steal your car during your wedding. There is no going too far in that circumstance." He laid his dish down and drew me closer. "You've spent your entire life making yourself smaller so that others can feel larger. Today, you took up space. That is not going too far. That is finally going far enough. I keep waiting to feel guilty." "Aber do you?" He searched my emotions honestly. "No, I am sad. I'm angry. I am relieved. But I am not guilty." A brick. "Good, because you have nothing to be guilty about." He kissed my forehead and said, "Get some sleep, we have an aircraft to catch in 6 hours." However, sleep remained elusive. I lay awake thinking about my mother's expression when James threatened her country club membership, Megan's tears, and the ovation of 180 people who had witnessed me finally standing up to years of cruelty. Around 4 a.m., my phone buzzed, and I opened it, against my better judgment, to see a text from an unknown number. "This is your Aunt Rachel. I've wanted to say this for years. Your mother caused this predicament. She helped Megan and ignored you. I applaud you for setting boundaries. Your father would be too. Congratulations on your nuptials. James, who had awakened as I moved, read the Burkett and grinned. See, you're not the villain in this story. Abram, Mom would disagree. Mom's opinion ceased mattering the minute she tried to manipulate my parents. His voice was stern. She made her choice. She picked Megan over you once too many. She has to deal with the repercussions of her decision. The journey to Bora Bora was long yet comfortable, especially in first class. James had booked us a private overwater house at a resort that looked like something out of a magazine, and we spent 2 weeks snorkeling, reading novels on the deck, making love with the sound of waves beneath us, and not talking about my family at all. On the 4th day, I made the mistake of checking Instagram, where Megan had posted a series of stories. The first was a hazy post about fictional people who forgot where they came from. The second was a snapshot of a used Honda Civic captioned, "When you have to adult on your own because family abandons you." The third was a copy of a family alienation story with multiple sobbing emojis. James pulled the phone from my grasp and gently tossed it onto the couch. "No, we're on our honeymoon. Her drama does not get to join us. A brewer. She's making me look like the bad guy. A burqa for whom? Her 300 Instagram followers. What happened? Sarah, everyone from that wedding has already posted about it. Jessica's video was shared 50 times. The truth is out there. Allow Megan to create whatever story she wants. The ones who matter are aware of what actually occurred. A brew." He was correct, but it still ached. I had spent so much time trying to be the nice daughter, the supporting sister, the family member who never created difficulty. Letting go of that identity was more difficult than I had anticipated. Abra. As the sun began to drop, James brought me onto the deck. "I'm sorry you had to do that," he said softly into my hair. "Abra. I'm not," I told myself, surprised. "I should have done it years ago." "For the record," he said, "my parents have already ordered you a second Mercedes in a different color with upgraded features. It will be delivered next week. The original is being donated to a women's shelter that assists abuse survivors in getting back on their feet." I moved back to look at him. "You donated my car, Abra. It was never truly yours once she touched it. I wanted you to have something that was absolutely free of her influence." He grinned. "Plus, the new one has heated and cooled seats, and I've already completed all of the title transfer paperwork for the donation. The women's shelter will sell it off to help support their initiatives." I began laughing, still weeping, and undoubtedly looked like a complete mess. "I love you so much, Ekri. I love you too. And for what it's worth, my mother is already drafting a very detailed prenuptial addendum that specifies any gifts from my family cannot be transferred to your relatives without both of our explicit written consent. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said to me." "Oh, Bree, I thought you'd appreciate the legal specificity." We danced on the balcony as our guests rejoiced at home. Jessica emailed me later and said, "That was the most badass thing I've ever seen. Your mother's expression when James endangered her club membership. Priceless." I said, "I can't believe I did that in front of 180 people. Abru, everybody here is on your side. Have you seen Mrs. Henderson?" She cheered louder than everybody else. Apparently her daughter experienced something similar with her in-laws. The rest of the celebration was a flurry of congratulations, knowing stares and numerous elderly ladies telling their own experiences about family boundary concerns. James's parents made a point of toasting our daughter Emma, who deserves everything good in the world. Mom didn't call that night or for the next 2 weeks while we were on our honeymoon. The first week back from the honeymoon was surreal. Moving into our new home, adjusting to married life, and trying to digest all that had transpired during the wedding. Margaret contacted me every other day to check in, never pressing but always there. It was the type of parental support I'd been looking for my whole life. When I eventually switched on my phone, there were 17 voicemails from Mom, which I erased without listening to. Megan texted, "I needed to buy a used Honda. I hope you are pleased." I banned her phone number. On Thursday, Sophia, James's sister, asked me to lunch at a chic cafe downtown, where she was already seated when I arrived. "How are you holding up?" she inquired after we had ordered. "Honestly, I'm not sure. A part of me feels liberated. A part of me feels like I just blew up my entire family." "I did not blow anything up. You just ceased being the foundation that kept everything together while being treated as dirt." Sophia stirred the iced tea, Can I tell you something? When James initially informed us about you, Mom did a background check. Abra wrote, I nearly choked on the water. She what? What? Burke, do not stress out. She does that with every person we date. Seriously, old family habit. Sophia apologized and said, but what came back was interesting. She learned about the scholarship fund you put up. She discovered you had been paying part of your mother's home expenditures for the last 2 years without notifying anybody. She discovered that you had borrowed Megan's $7,500, which was never repaid. She discovered records of dozens of money payments to your mother and sister dating back years. How did she, Sarah? My family has resources. We don't use them carelessly. But Mom wanted to know who James was marrying. Sophia leaned forwards. When she saw all of this, she told me she was concerned. Worried that you were being overly generous, that your family was taking advantage of you, and that you would bring that dysfunction into our family. James persuaded her to give you a chance, saying you were different. And then my mom tried to steal my wedding gift. When Mom called me after talking to your mom, she said, I was wrong. Emma isn't very generous. She's been abused into charity, and I'll be damned if I let them keep doing it. Sophia stretched out and grasped my hand. Emma, you have a true family now. We're not flawless, but we don't accept more than we can offer. The talk stuck with me for days, and the concept that I'd been abused into giving impacted me in a way I hadn't expected. I'd always thought of myself as a nice person who helped others when they needed it. But, looking back, how much of that aid was voluntarily provided versus guilt extracted? The next Tuesday, I was at work when reception contacted me. Emma, there's someone come to see you. Lydia Caldwell says she is your mother. Brie, my stomach dropped. Tell her I'm not available. A brewery, she says she'll wait. I quickly contacted James and said, my mother is at my office. Brookie, would you like me to come down there? A birthday. No, but could you remain on the phone? I'm going to go talk to her. You got this. I strolled down to the lobby, my shoes tapping across the marble floor. Mom sat in one of the leather seats, clutching her bag in her lap, looking smaller and older than I recalled. When she noticed me, she stood up hurriedly. Emma, thank God. I had been trying to reach you for weeks. I understand. I've purposefully ignored you. I maintained a professional tone, mindful that we were in public. What do you want? I want to talk to my daughter. Can we go somewhere private, or not? Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. Mom looked around at the other people in the lobby, and the receptionist was plainly listening. Emma, please. This is embarrassing. You know what was embarrassing? Having you attempt to take my wedding gift in front of 180 guests. So, pardon me if I'm not especially concerned about your comfort right now. 3 months later, Mom arrived at our new home unexpectedly. James answered the door. I need to speak with my daughter, she said. Emma's not interested in speaking with you, he said quietly. Iber, I am her mother. You can't keep me from her. Ibru, I am not withholding you from anyone. She's making her own decision. If that changes, she will contact you. Mom tried to get past him, but James remained still in the doorway, his arms crossed. Mrs. Caldwell, you must leave now. Abri, Bethany lost her job again, Mom lamented. She can barely manage the payments on that second-hand automobile. If Emma would just... About simply what? Bail her out again? Give her money. Buy her a new automobile. James's voice was harsh. Your girls are grown-ups. Megan's issues are not Emma's to solve. Please, I know I made mistakes, but she's cutting off her entire family over one argument. Bree, it wasn't just one dispute. It has been 30 years of being regarded like an ATM and an afterthought. You're not allowed to diminish that. I stared from the upstairs window as Mom eventually went, her shoulders slumping. A part of me felt guilty. A part of me felt liberated. James discovered me a few minutes later. Are you okay? Yeah, I answered with sincerity. I'm actually really okay, Abra. 6 months after the wedding, I received a letter from Megan, not a text or email, but a handwritten letter that came at our house, in which she apologized sincerely, and without reason or apology. She claimed she'd begun therapy and was starting to see how Mom's partiality had harmed both of us. She wasn't asking for anything, just wanted me to know she was working on herself. A burger. I did not answer promptly. Instead, I put the letter in a drawer and focused on my life, my job at a nonprofit law clinic, my marriage, and my new friendships with James's family. Eventually, I sent a brief email saying I appreciated her apology and needed more time, to which she responded that she understood. A year after the wedding, Mom sent a card that said, "Missing you," and had her signature. I tossed it away, then found it in the garbage an hour later. I wasn't ready to forgive her, but I saved the card. Maybe someday. James and I began discussing having children soon, and I had previously promised him that if we had more than one child, we would never play favorites. He smiled and said, "That's literally the easiest promise I'll ever make to you." The Mercedes GLE 500 that his parents gave me was donated within a week of the wedding, and the title was transferred to the women's shelter, which auctioned it for their programs. My new one, a gorgeous silver Mercedes GLE 500 with every upgrade imaginable, sits in our garage, titled in both of our names, with a legal document on file stating that it cannot be transferred without both of us signing. When I drive past the places where Mom used to take Megan for their weekly lunch dates, a tradition I was never invited to, I don't feel angry anymore. Instead, I feel sad for the relationship we could have had if she'd been able to love both her daughters equally. It's excessive and probably legally unnecessary, but it makes me feel safe. But I also feel glad for a spouse who stood up for me, for in-laws who love me like family, and for finally standing up for myself, even if it meant losing my mother and sister. Jessica once asked if I regretted causing such a spectacle at my wedding, and I told her the truth. The only thing I regret is that it took me so long to do it. My wedding day was supposed to be about starting a new life, but it didn't go as planned. I learned that sometimes the best gift you can give yourself isn't a car, a dress, or a perfect ceremony, but rather boundaries that are enforced loudly enough that everyone can hear. Megan's therapist reportedly informed her that her mother has narcissistic tendencies and that the golden child scapegoat relationship is typical. I could have told her that without a therapy, but I'm pleased she's receiving assistance. Every year on our anniversary, James and I return to the Whitaker estate, where we were married. We stand in the garden where we made our vows and remember everything. Not just the beautiful parts, but also the difficult parts, where we agreed that our marriage would be different, that we would protect each other, and that we would never allow anyone, including family, to treat us with less respect than we deserve. The Mercedes incident developed a strange kind of mythology in our social group. People still bring it up at parties. Remember how Emma's mother attempted to take her wedding gift at the real ceremony? They laugh about it today, but with a sympathetic edge, sharing their own tales of unpleasant family members, and Jessica still retains the tape from that night. And when I'm feeling unsure about my decisions, I watch it to remind myself that I wasn't insane or cruel. I was finally advocating for myself. Megan texted me to ask if I wanted to donate to a present, which I gently denied. She said all right, and didn't push, so I guess that's progress. Some people think I'm harsh for cutting off my mother over a car, but they don't realize it was never about the car. The automobile was only the most obvious manifestation of a lifetime habit, and it was the moment that finally broke through my indoctrination to be the nice daughter who never complained. James understands, as does his sister Sophia, and even my uncle who escorted me down the aisle phoned me a few months later to express his admiration for my ability to advocate for myself. He claimed he had seen my mother prefer Megan for years and felt helpless to intervene.